We hear often that reading is one of the best things that we can do for our kids to engage with them and to teach them. But today I want to go really deep down into what that means. How does books really teach your child? And then how and what can you do to maximize those learnings? Different activities and things to get you excited when it comes to choosing books and creating activities around those books. So I created a presentation a few years ago, and it is one of my best presentations. I love it because it really opens the world of books and all that you can do about it. And then after this month, we're gonna take some of those ideas and we're going to create our own activities around it. It's gonna give you also a deep understanding, a little bit on the circle time that I created, my signature circle time that I've been sharing with you, and what those elements that I add into the circle time. It's all based on research, and you're gonna find out the secret. So let's get started. I'll jump into the presentation. So let's talk about how to boost your child's brain development using books. We know that 90% of a child's brain is developed before the age 5. This kind of puts a pressure, but at the same time, it's such a great opportunity to teach our children before their 5th birthday. They are little sponges and they're getting so much information around and they're really absorbing all of that. So here's a few things that we're going to be talking about. We're going to talk about the 7 ways to boost your child's brain development. In that part, number 7 is books, which we're going to go deep down. Then we're going to talk about 5 tips to foster more reading at home, creative ways that you can incorporate books into your play. We're going to talk about bilingual homes and how to add that element of the bilingualism into books. We're going to talk about some different books about babies and toddlers, and I'm going to give you a little bit behind the scenes of why I like those books and what to look for in books. And I have some Osborne books here. At the time of this presentation, I had access to their collection of books, so I was able to really see what they had offer, and they're really sturdy books, so they're really awesome books. I am not an affiliate of them, but I really do like their books. So 7 ways to boost your child development. So the first thing, the easiest thing that you can do is you can sing. Language involves more than just words. It's that rhyming. So when we sing and when we read poems, the child kind of starts getting that understanding through their ears, through their listening skills, how words are put together, how the rhyming goes, how the intonation goes. So singing is a great way because they are prone to listening and they like that listening. So I'll give you a tip. If you want a child to do something, you say it singing. So it's like, let's go. Oh no, you're not listening. You say, let's go. Let's go. One of the things that I do in my nature class, if I want them to come with me somewhere, I say, follow me, and you know those kids are following me. So singing is a great tool to develop those language skills. You can also listen to music. It can be your music, it could be old music, it could be all types of music that also helps with that language development. So what you can do is you can expose them to all types of different music, from classical music to rock music to your own songs that you like, and even the childhood songs. Another great idea is you can do peekaboo. Peekaboo really creates a fun and bonding activity, and it's also what developers call an object permanence activity. You probably do this automatically without realizing the benefits of the brain, and what happens is they're going to start teaching that things, even though you can't see them, they're still there. So if you cover a toy under a blanket and you take it out, you're showing them that the toy is still there. If mama leaves the room, they're gonna start realizing, hey, mama comes back. So great way to just really boost that brain development. Another way is you can create your environment as educational as possible. And this means your environment is your third teacher. In the Reggio Emilia, we see the environment also as a teacher. So we are the teachers, the student itself is the teacher, because they're like creating their own little scientific explorations, and the environment itself is the teacher. But in order for the environment to be the teacher, you want to make sure that you have open-ended toys that have cause and effect, and all those toys that create independent. So it really allows your child to create their own game and create that critical thinking. Finger plays and chant. Why is 5 little ducks so famous? Why are 5 monkeys jumping on the bed so famous? Why is open, shut them, hands, open, shut them? Why are they so famous? They are so famous because they've been using throughout the years as a language development tool, as a brain development tool. So sequential games, chants that repeat themselves, that you say often, include the repetition phrases, which children love because they know what to expect. And at the same time, that repetition creates those brain connections. Sensory play, which we talk about a lot, we do a lot in our program because it is such an important part of brain development. Sensory play activities facilitate exploration, and they naturally encourage your children to use those scientific process while they play. They create, they investigate, they explore, they become their own teachers. So sensory is any activity that includes a stimulus to all of your senses. So we have the touch, the smell, the taste, the sight, the hearing, and also the balance and movement. Those are also senses that we want to work on. Which brings me to vocabulary. And this is where kind of books are going to come into play. But books and picture books often create an opportunity to learn about vocabulary and different words. So sometimes it's difficult for us to narrate our day or to tell our children what's happening because they're not giving that conversational feedback that we're used to with adults. Vocabulary on books allows you to expose them to those words and those extra language development skills. So you can use picture books, you can use activity pages that really engage that vocabulary. Picture books are great because they can see it. More than cartoonish type of books, I would encourage you to look for like magazines or books that have realistic pictures of animals. They, at this age, they don't really know the representation of that tiger. It's a tiger. Like, I'd rather show them a real tiger with like a National Geographic magazine or like a calendar. Sometimes at Walmart you see them in the calendar section. They have the collection of like the bird calendar or the owls or the national parks, like really graphic real pictures. I really like. But this, they have vocabulary books that will encourage you different words that you can expose your child. So going into books, why are books so developmentally rich? So they let your child really understand how print works. They understand that books are magical and there's stories around there. There's some interactive books that are there that are really engaging the child, and we'll get into that a little bit. So I always like to choose 3 to 5 books where the children have exposure to. You don't want to give them access to the whole library because they're not gonna know what to choose, or they're gonna just throw all the books in the floor and then you're gonna have to clean them up. So put some books facing up and just let your child pick those books and then you read to them. So one of the things that I want you to start doing, if you are not doing it already, is to point out things that are interesting to them in the page. So some of these picture books, their words are very limited, like they're very short stories. So spend some time looking at those books, looking at those pages, and just start pointing things like, what do you see? What colors do you see? Count how many birds are in the picture. Narrate what is the cat doing. Some of these books even have some sensory textures in it, which will add on an additional thing to talk about and explore. Repetition is great for language development, so don't be afraid to read that book over and over and over again. So here's some 5 tips that you can do to foster reading at home. So as we said, start reading to your baby young. Don't be afraid to choose different books that are not just like baby books. Read to them magazines, read to them recipe books, read to them books that you're reading, just exposing them to different type of print. It's a great way to kind of get them understanding that magical life of books. Number 2 is to track the words with your finger as you read. So what we're going to do is we're going to start learning a little bit of teaching them some pre-reading skills. And one of the things that are pre-reading skills is that we read left to right. And one of the things that we can do that and we can teach them is to use our finger and track the words and track your finger across as you read the books and the words. Another thing that you can do with that pre-writing skill is you can look for books that maybe have patterns, that you can also do kind of that tracking, that finger tracking, or if you have counting, you can count from left to right. So engage that finger when you do that reading. Number 3, make lots of facial expressions and sound effects. That's how I engage my kids in sensory class, is because I am very expressive. I'm very exaggerating when I do my things, when I read, the tone of voice that I read. Try to make it as theatrical as possible, because that really engages the child and really keeps their interest when it comes to books. And number 4, have books everywhere within access. I have books in my car. I have books in the kitchen. I have books in the bathroom. I have books in the bedroom. It is like in every room you can have 2 or 3 books and often read it. A child that is constantly being read to, a child that constantly has access to books and can see the magic that is in them and the stories that are there, they're going to start to create that love for learning, and which is what we're trying to accomplish between here and preschool. We want them to love to learn, and books kind of open that world. Also, a child that's engaged in books and songs and understand like I'm gonna keep saying it, the magic of books, it's a kid that's gonna be less prone to want to do screen time because books are so magical to them. So it's a great benefit that you're starting now, a great customs and rhythms that you're creating throughout your day. So instead of like automatically going to a restaurant and giving them the phone, you can automatically have a book in your backpack that you can use at restaurants. Another place that we tend to put screens is maybe in the car when we're going places. I always have a basket with 3 to 5 books. And these are like books that we don't use often enough that I know are going to be special. So if he says I'm bored in the car, well, my son is older now, he can actually say it. Books are a great way to access that. And number 5, reading is nurturing time with your kids. So I know we're so focused into teaching them. Don't forget that nurturing is something that you can share together. And I'll tell you a little story. So when my oldest child is 16 years old now. When we used to have our bedtime routine, we used to read 3 to 5 books. And I do that with my youngest, who is 5 now. We always read 3 books. So sometimes he picks the books, sometimes I pick the books, but I always read 3 books. So I did it for years, all through elementary school. I think when he was in about 6th grade, we had chapter books, and then 7th grade, he decided he didn't want to do nighttime reading anymore. So I respected that and I stopped doing that. At the same time, Manu was being born and I was taking care of him, so it kind of worked out. Years later, like 2 years ago, he had an incident happen. He made a mistake, he did something, he was so embarrassed, family situation, and he needed a way to kind of connect with me. He needed a way to kind of say, I'm sorry, or I need you to be next to me. And the way he approached it, the way he said, can you lay with me in the bed and read a story? Can you read to me? Can you just lay with me? This is a grown 16-year-old kid asking me to read to him, because reading became part of our story, part of our bonding. So that was very special, and it is something that I nurture throughout the years, and that I'm doing now with my second child. And it is something that I suggest that you do as well. Some ways that you can create or incorporate books into play. So there are some books that have interactive features, that you either have flaps that you can open and close, or like the Kisses, Cuddles, and Goodnight has actually reusable stickers that the kids can engage and put the little stuffed animal next to each of the animals that go to bed. So really interactive things that it asks the child to do along with the book are great. You can do activities that are to kind of reinforce the concept. So you can use the book to kind of reinforce different concepts. I love to do this potty training. So, they have different potty training activities, and you can play with. I actually have a full-on circle time that I created for potty training, to kind of play with the dolls and put them into taking off the diaper and put them into the toilets and all of that activity after reading those books. So you can use concepts that are into the book to kind of reinforce and use the activities. You can work on fine motor skills alongside each of the books. So if they are, like this one is a little lamp book, and you have different textures on a tin can that encourage your child to move and transfer things around. So you can take the inspiration of the book itself to create some activities. You can also bring stories into snack time, so you can create different activities based on the book, but instead of play or activity based, how we had on this one, we actually work with food. So let's talk about a little bit with bilingual homes. What you can do are books that come in 2 languages all at once. So sometimes you can read the book in English, sometimes you can read it in Spanish. And even if you don't have, or whatever language that you're working with, even if you don't have books that have the dual language, you can write or you can translate as you go. It's a great way to kind of read the same book and expose them to different languages. And if you do speak that second language and your child starts to speak, so if it says, water please, you can say agua por favor. So you can just repeat whatever they're saying into the other language, so that they have the exposure and the vocabulary of both languages simultaneously as they're growing in their day-to-day life. So here's some books for development that I really love. There are some books that have cutouts of, for example, like the cats have a cutout of the little tails. There's one that has like little bees, and the bees goes around, and you can really follow it. Remember how I said use your finger to kind of track things around to teach those pre-reading skills? These, when they have the texture, it allows them for some pre-writing skills. So it teaches them how to follow the line, and because it has the texture, the cutout, you really feel it and are exposed to it in a sensorial way. Tiny little books, and I've seen some of them at the dollar store as well, that they're little, so that it's easier for the child to turn their own pages. They're board books with just 2 or 3 pages. So I really encourage them to do page turning, which is also a way to work on fine motor skills. Another way that you can incorporate books that are going to teach you for learning is feelings, and those are, at this time maybe you won't use them as much, but in the terrible 2s and the 3s, when those feelings really start to come out, books are a great way to kind of teach them to understand those emotions that they're feeling, because they're going to be able to see themselves into these different characters, and at the same time they're going to be able to see how these characters solve those problems, which when they put themselves in the position of the character and they see how they solve it, when they go out into the world and they're into that situation, they're going to go back to that book. In this case, it is super important that you repeat it so that they really understand the story and kind of like understand it and know it by heart. Sound, sometimes those books can get annoying, but it's one of the books that I find that really engage and promote independent reading when they have the different sounds. Sometimes you see the book and it has like the different animals on the side, and as you read along you put the animal sound. So those are really fun. And one of them that I love, and you could find this at the dollar store, but I will also link a few good finds from Amazon, are activity books for art development. So one of my favorite ones are the ones that you go ahead and just add water. So they're great for when you're in the airplane or at restaurants, because all you really need is to wet that paintbrush with water and the colors start to magically appear. You can do these with foam brushes when they're so young versus that tiny little brush that usually the book comes with. And you can start them at this age, and as they get better with their fine motor development, you can start moving to, smaller brushes like the ones they come. So now we know how important books are for development. And now what we're going to do for our lesson plan is we're going to take poems and songs and different books, and we're going to create activities, sensory activities, art activities around it, so that you can really see what I told you about and how you can put it into practice. We'll use some of those very common songs and some activities that I've done in my sensory class that have been a great success, and I'm sure you're going to enjoy as well. So I'll see you in the lesson plan, and I hope this was very helpful.